Real quick, before I start today's video, I want to remind every one of you to head over to my Patreon channel. I just uploaded a new video today, so make sure you head over to Patreon, check it out. If you're having a hard time finding it, just go down to my website, link down below. Go to my website, jeremiahbabe.com, and you will be able to find my Patreon link right there on my website. So again, new video today, check it out. Thanks to all of you who have come over. So how much did the Fed have to come in and buy today in order to save the day? They did not want this market to have another day like yesterday, going into a 3-day weekend. But more nonsense. You know, as I was watching the markets close down, I was watching Fox Business, and they had a guest on, and this gentleman said the consumer is really strong. I almost fell out of my chair when he said that. He said, and I quote, "The consumer is really strong." He said, "You can't even find a car to purchase now because everybody's buying up all the new cars, so it's hard to find a car." We'll get into that a little bit later on this video because I'm going to give you the real statistics from the Wall Street Journal that completely disagrees with that statement. But let's talk about the payroll increase. I think it was 1.375 million jobs added in August. You know, they tell us how great everything is and how all the jobs are coming back. August, we brought back nearly 1.4 million jobs, but we just lost 881,000 jobs yesterday. We lost 1,000,001 last week, 1,000,000 the week before, 1,000,000 the week before that. So, I mean, we are still hemorrhaging massive job losses in America, yet we should be ecstatic that we just added 1.37 million jobs in August. So again, what about the million jobs plus that we've been losing for 24 weeks now? I think we're near 60 million people filing for unemployment claims in the last 24 weeks. Nobody even says a word. It is nothing but crickets. But let's take a look at where the job growth came from. There was an article today on CNBC, and it gives a graph, and let's just go over that. Guess where most of the job creation came from in August? Government jobs. Think about that. The government now is creating more jobs than any other sector. Retail trade, 248.9 thousand jobs, and going back to government jobs, they created 344,000 jobs. Leisure and hospitality, that created 174,000 jobs. Healthcare and social assistance, 90,000 jobs. Manufacturing, 29,000. But when we look at retail trade, leisure, hospitality, healthcare, and social assistance, these are all low-paying jobs for the most part. Low-paying jobs. This is not going to support a real economy. If America plans on being a superpower, it's going to have to be creating more than 29,000 manufacturing jobs, and it is not going to survive on retail, leisure, and hospitality and social assistance. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. But the thing that I really want to point out here is the government is creating more jobs than any of these other sectors. So, I mean, are we all going to have to work for the government in order to have a job, in order to make a living? Is it coming down to that? We're all going to have to work for the government? I mean, I thought we were talking about having less government. In order for America to be successful and to succeed, this country needs a lot less government, and it looks to me like we're creating a lot more government because we're creating a lot more government jobs. So again, not everything looks as rosy and peachy as the people on television are telling us. We look at the discrepancies with this job report. There's a few of them. What about when we take into account the permanent closures of businesses, bankruptcies, the downsizing of business, and yet they're telling us now unemployment is only now 8.4%. Are you kidding me? I think anybody that believes this really needs psychological help. They must think that the average American is very, very dumb. And you know what? Maybe they're right, because if you believe the real unemployment numbers here in America are 8.4%, you've got some problems. You know, I think anybody that can think for themselves knows that these numbers are very manipulated. What about gig workers? How about self-employed? What about people who haven't worked long enough to even file, to be eligible for unemployment? What about those that have maxed out their benefits? All these people do not count. Isn't that convenient? So a lot of people right now in this economy do not count. And so they can manipulate these numbers any way they want. But I'm going to tell you, when I go out, just like all of you, when you go out, you can just see there is something much, much different in America now. People look worried. They look concerned. You don't see just the amount of traffic out there just isn't like it used to be. Maybe there's exceptions. Maybe things are roaring back in your areas. But I can tell you right here in my area, it is noticeable, the amount of traffic noticeably down. And a lot of people that I've read in the comments will say the same thing. Noticeably can tell that things are not as busy as they used to be. The roads, the highways, the shopping areas, just the foot traffic, the auto traffic, everything is down. But there are, of course, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. But going back to what I opened this video with this guest on Fox Business today saying you can't even buy a new car, they're just not available. Wall Street Journal today, car sales are down 20%. But prices are setting records. The average new vehicle now is $35,420. And we look at people being furloughed, people with permanent job losses, people waiting on stimulus checks just to pay their debts. And yet we look at a new car on average over $35,000. So again, U.S. car sales have declined 20% in August, but prices rising while people are making less. But this will force people into financing cars for 6, 7, 8 years, making them even bigger debt slaves than they already are. The question, why would you even buy a new car today? That blows my mind. Why would anybody go out and buy a new car? You know, again, as most of you know, I'm driving the old Toyota. I'm going to drive it till it blows up. But I can tell you, it's not fancy, but I can sleep at night. It allows me the ability to buy some gold, to buy some silver, to buy some assets, not a depreciating asset like an automobile. But my Camry does the job. Doesn't look great. But it gets the job done, gets me from point A to point B. People going out there and just voluntarily becoming debt slaves. An average car now, over $35,000. You're going to pay what, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% on a new car? Finance that thing for 6, 7, 8 years. They are taking you to the cleaners. My advice today, and I'm going to give real sound financial advice today, save up some cash. Get $4,000 or $5,000 and go buy yourself a used Toyota. It will get the job done, and you will be able to sleep at night. You will be able to put some cash away. You will be able to put some silver away. That's what smart people do, not getting farther into debt. Warning flashes as corporate execs dump most stocks since 2015. This is on The Hedge today. The insider selling frenzy has been happening as only a handful of tech stocks push overall main equity indexes to record or near record forward PEs. The optics of insider selling in force is not a good one, indicating that business elites don't believe in today's rich valuations as the economy or the economic recovery continues to stall. Max Govt, head of asset allocation for Pacific Life Fund Advisors. He says, if you think your future is dim, but your stock is soaring, then it makes sense to sell. If you think your future is dim, but your stock is soaring, then it makes sense to sell. So I think there's a lot of truth to that statement right there. So one thing is for sure. On this Friday afternoon, September 4th, the propaganda continues to pile up. The puppets continue to tell people buy into these overvalued markets. Go buy a new car. You need a new car, even though you may not have a job tomorrow, even though your hours got cut, even though you've been furloughed, even though you're dependent on a stimulus check and unemployment. You should go buy a new car. And they're so hard to find, you can't even get one. But the Wall Street Journal says auto sales down 20%. I wonder why. They must really think that the average American is really that dumb. So as I sit here today on this Friday afternoon, September 4th, 115 degrees outside, there is no doubt, I think most of us can come to the conclusion that there are a lot of people out there drinking the lemonade, listening to these people on the television, believing that even though they don't have a job, or their wages have been cut, or they don't know if they're going to have a job next week, or they've been furloughed, or they're dependent on a stimulus check, waiting for another unemployment check, these people will actually go out and buy a new car because people on the television told them it's a good idea, that everything's okay, the consumer is really strong, the economy is bouncing right back, V-shaped recovery, nothing but rainbows, teddy bears, and beautiful blue skies ahead. Listen, if you're listening to these people, you're going to get yourself into very, very serious trouble. You know, every once in a while, I'll listen to the Dave Ramsey show. And, you know, if you take a few minutes and listen to that show, you will hear the nightmares that exist out in America. The average consumer calling in, telling you about their credit card debt, their student loan debt, their auto debt, their mortgage debt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The amount of debt that the average consumer, the average American carrying right now is unbelievable. Most people at this point are debt slaves. And as this economy continues to implode, these people are going to become so desperate. They are going to be beyond slaves. They are going to be penniless. They're going to own nothing, no cash, no assets, no future. And you know, I make these videos to just wake up as many people as possible and to reinforce with you that you can make a choice, but you have to make sacrifices in order to do it. You know, if you want to go out and drive a new $50,000 car, if you can afford it, great. There's nothing wrong with that. If you can write a check for it today and not even blink, God bless you. That's awesome. But if you have to finance a vehicle for 6, 7, or 8 years, you're making a huge mistake. There are people that are going into jewelry stores and financing a watch, a ring, a bracelet. And these people get completely bamboozled and hoodwinked because they don't understand the interest that they're going to be paying over the years. You know, the interest you're going to be paying on it 7, 8 years on a car. I mean, these dealerships make more money on the interest they charge you than they do from the car. So, you know, be very, very careful out there. Again, save up some cash, buy an old car, an old reliable car like a Toyota. It will get you from point A to point B. And, you know, when things come back and you're doing well and you can write a check for that Lexus or that Mercedes or that BMW or whatever you want to drive, then that's what you do. But right now, taking on debt, especially now, I just cannot believe anybody who thinks this is a great time to buy a brand new car or a house or a big ticket item. We don't know what's going to happen going up to November 3rd, and we don't know what's going to happen after November 3rd. We don't know what's going to happen politically, socially, or economically here in America. And I think it's just common sense that if you're thinking about making a big ticket purchase, you would not do anything until after November. I wouldn't be doing anything until 2021. At least let the dust settle a little bit. But I think we're going to see huge volatility in 2021, especially in housing. And already we're seeing big problems in auto sales, retail, just commercial real estate. There's just so much happening right now, and I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. What is going to pull America out of this depression? We got a long way to go, but it's not going to be leisure and hospitality. It's not going to be healthcare assistance, and it's not going to be government jobs. Bottom line, that's not going to save America. This is This is why we're in such a big mess here today. 70% of our GDP is made up by consumption. People buying things with money they don't have. And at some point, you got to pay the piper. And this Federal Reserve, the biggest central bank in the world, is playing a game it cannot win. They are going to debase the US dollar. It is under pressure as I speak. It is going to continue to come under pressure. It is going to continue to buy less and less and less. You have to understand, in the last 100 years, the US dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power. So how much time till it loses that last 3%? So, I believe this is not the time to be going out and buying big ticket items. This is the time to really get into a survival type mode, because the worst is yet to come. And I hate to bring you the bad news, but if you heed the warning, and look, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a mind reader. But all you have to do is connect the dots and see what is happening right now. What happens today is telling you what's going to happen tomorrow. We have millions, tens of millions of people jobless right now in America. We look at corporate debt, we look at household debt, we look at what's happening in commercial real estate. We just look at what the typical American is holding in credit card debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt. Most people are debt slaves. We look at the U.S. debt nearing, where are we at right now? $27 trillion, $200 trillion if you include unfunded liabilities like Medicare and Medicaid. You look at the pension crisis we're sitting on. We are sitting on a powder cake here, ladies and gentlemen. And again, if you think leisure and hospitality and medical assistance is going to save America, you are sadly wrong. So I'm going to leave it there today. I hope everybody takes a little bit of time, puts a little balance in their life this weekend, but also takes the time to prepare. Did you buy some silver this weekend, or are you going to buy some silver this weekend? A little bit of gold, some food, some water, some security, some brass, some pharmaceuticals. These are things you're going to need to put away for what is coming. You may even need to be putting some food away for other family members or friends. But when I watch the propaganda I see today, this market wanted to go down hard again today, but it won't, because the Fed is in there buying everything. Between the plunge protection team, the Fed, they are not going to let these markets go down, and that's fine. But they cannot save the economy. The economy is plunging every day. It gets worse. And they can push the Dow Jones up, the NASDAQ, whatever they want. But at the end of the day, they cannot save the U.S. economy. They cannot manipulate the U.S. economy. And this is where everything is going to fail. When the average American does not have a job, cannot feed his or her family, cannot make the mortgage payment, cannot pay the rent, nobody cares what the Dow Jones is today. I'm going to leave it there today. Continue to prepare. God bless every one of you. Have a phenomenal weekend.